All set? Great. Welcome to the Red Hook Town Board meeting of Wednesday, April 23rd. Would you kindly join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. For the folks at home, if you'd be kind enough to pan over and they can see what's being discussed tonight's meeting. We have our supervisor's report, which is a snapshot of the finances of the municipality at a given moment. Clerk's report, likewise. We've got a bunch of announcements. We'll take public comments for about 15 minutes or so. On the agenda, we have a resolution to award a contract for St. Margaret's accessibility and parking improvements. If you've been watching all along the last couple of years, we've been doing quite a bit of work on St. Margaret's, getting it ready for opening soon. And there goes the TV. So you want to see if that'll hold on there?
There you go.
Little technical. Okay, there we go. Second item will be reorganization. If you've been following along, we received a Department of State grant to update our comprehensive plan. We now have a contract with the state and with the consultant. Thanks to work of Council Member Solomon and Kane. We have some recommendations for who should be on the steering committee. Important because this is sort of the big picture, the vision. We want to hear from you about what you want Red Hook to look like in 20 years. In particular, some of us are interested in what it is that you think that we're lacking here. Obviously, we have so many great things going on, but perhaps there's something that you've been thinking about for quite some time that you would like included. We have, it's our second meeting of the month, committee and department reports. Other business, so in other business we have a resolution to set a special meeting for next Monday night. And in the second item is to do a Patriot sign marker of the old Red Church Cemetery up by Tivoli. If you don't know, this is the 250th anniversary of the start of the Revolutionary War. There's an initiative called Rev 250, and part of the rollout includes having burial markers, these historic signs you see on state properties like St. Margaret's or the Red Church Cemetery, that indicates that there were Revolutionary soldiers buried there. And we have identified, or Historic Red Hook, or people associated with Historic Red Hook have identified at least 13 individuals who participated in the Revolutionary War, who are buried there. Okay, that being said, let's jump right on in. This is the supervisor's report for the period ending March 31st, 2025. We started, what? It is being fickle. I'll read you the numbers until we get it back up. We started with an opening balance of $11,686,634. We had receipts of $5.3 million, disbursements of $5.9 million, for an ending balance of $11,066,862. You have in your packets also. So why don't we try to do this one? I'm not sure what's there we go. You have in your packets budget adjustments as recommended by our bookkeeper and Conway. Are there any questions? Okay, we did receive our first quarterly of sales tax receipts. Our quarterly distribution, we're not taking questions now.
You just said, are there any questions?
No, for the board members.
I was just asking, is this online, a copy of this? to look
Yes,
at?
everything is online. I'm sorry, if you didn't hear it earlier, you can get every page that we are discussing 24 hours in advance online at redhookny.gov.
And is this one copy right here?
That is one set.
One-
So when
one
you-
set, okay.
That is one set. It typically is anywhere from 150 to 300 pages. But you get to see it. It was part of our initiative years ago to bring government to you because you can't always get to town hall. So you can see it 24 hours beforehand. Okay. Any questions about the budget adjustments? Okay. And the variance report you also have in your packet. We did, I started to say we get the first quarter of sales tax revenues down just a bit. That's to be expected given what's going on right now. But nothing meaningful. Look for car sales to be sort of an indicator of whether it's going to be higher or lower. We have our community preservation fund continues to do quite well. In the last month, we received $85,000. We're now well over $3 million in that fund. We've raised since inception over $8 million, which we've leveraged with land trust funds, county and state. So that's all looking good. As I struggle with technology, is there a motion to accept the supervisor's report? Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
You need a second.
You need a second.
Who's second? You move. Thank you, Julia. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Deanna, we also have town clerk's report.
The town clerk's report for the period of March 1st, 2025 to March 31st, 2025. Total local shares remitted to the supervisor, $7,407.90. Amount paid to New York State Agriculture and Markets for the spay-neuter program, $38. Amount paid to New York State Environmental Conservation for hunting and fishing licenses, $22.50. Total state, county, and local revenues, $7,461. And the vouchers.
Deanna,
Yes.
I think you missed a line.
Oh,
You said
I don't have that one.
for the health department.
Oh, gosh. Yep, sorry about that. The amount paid to New York State for the Board of Health for the marriage license is $22.50. And the amount actually paid to the environmental, New York State Environmental Conservation was $172.60. Thank you. I put it on my thing. And then there's, I hereby certify that vouchers numbered 33204 to 33326, totaling $677,425.88, processed in the month of March 2025, are an accurate reporting of the abstracts approved for payment by the town board.
Very good, thank you very much, Deanna. Bill, you know the dog licensing amount, well?
Yeah.
So I just won't let this again. We'll be talking about that later. Is there a motion to accept the town clerk's report? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Okay, while technology is working temporarily, black and white copy, unfortunately. We're well into our town spring events. We had a very successful e-waste day. Many thanks to all the volunteers. We do this on an annual basis. I think we're one of the few municipalities that do it. If you're a Red Hook resident, you can bring your e-waste here and we will sustainably process it. There was a terrific fishing contest. Once again, many volunteers. We want to thank you all. We have new leadership here. We have some Stoddards, don't we? Thank you very much, Scotty, for your work on this. It could not have been a worse day, however, weather-wise, and these troopers, I think we had something like over 50 kids show up at Rec Park, and I was there for about an hour, and boy, half of them were trembling because it snowed, it was ice. I mean, if nothing else, we're going to have resilient kids for all that's getting thrown at them. So Arbor Day is this weekend, that's 10 to 12 at Town Hall. In addition to hearing me state a proclamation in the most boring fashion, you can get some free seedlings and plant them here. So that's this Saturday, Arbor Day. Also, Repair Cafe at the Community Center, Arbor Day is here. The screen is not. Community Center has Repair Cafe from 10 to 1. Many items you can bring there, your bike, lamps. Electric is the most popular repair that happens there. It is all free. One of the things that brought back in 2009 was Cleanup Day. Thanks to so many volunteers. We have it again May 3rd, 1 to 4 here at Town Hall. You'll be treated to Ben's Village Pizza as well as some ice cream at the conclusion of it. Boy, that is one fickle connection. Next up is on May 10th, we have 2 events. Rotary has their Apple Blossom Day, which goes from 1 to 4. 10 to 2. We have our fifth Drive Electric event, which is here at Town Hall, 1 to 4. There'll be a focus on autonomous vehicles, so if you want to come and hop in a car and watch the car drive you somewhere, that's always fun. So that's 1 to 4 here at Town Hall. Okay, and last but not least, and I see a couple of you here in the audience, you know, you learn something when you try these events. It's the damnedest things sometimes that are the most popular. Shred Day is back by popular demand, June 7th, 10 to 1. That's here at the Town Hall parking lot. There's a 3 legal box maximum for papers that you want to have shredded, and that is June 7th. Okay. Don't get dizzy looking at the screen. There are individual posters for each one of the events. They're on our website. Again, if you sign up for Notify Me, you can sign up for all these notifications. They come in handy, especially if you have, for example, a kid in summer camp and we have to cancel because of the storm or something. All right, Tour to Red Hook was not mentioned. It is not a town event. It is being put on by the library, but that is also Sunday, May 4th, 9:30 a.m. All of these events are free for Red Hook residents. Okay, that's what I have for, and announcements. The last announcement I will make is if you were at an info session at Bard College, called for by Barrytown residents, you already know. Otherwise, for the general public, I'd like to inform you that Bard College, right after I sent out the spring newsletter, let us know that they are putting our project on an indefinite hold. I won't go into the long explanation. I think that the CFO did a very nice job, but simply to say that it was not anticipated that they were going to close their Simons Rock campus when we put together this framework between a collaboration between the town, Scenic Hudson, Duchess Land Conservancy, and Bard College. They now have to focus on the renovations necessary so that they can get those students over here for the fall semester. They don't want to be doing that at the same time they're figuring out how to integrate the public into a portion of that property they are calling Messina. So we don't have a time frame. They did not give us a time frame for when, or frankly if, that will come to fruition. As many of you know, I did reach out to our partners and to Bard College. At the time, the property was not only up for sale, but about to be sold, and we thought we could come together and work on something that could preserve the open spaces, the field by the water tower, and perhaps provide some public property on the western portion. In concert with that is a proposal to extend across all of their now 3 main properties, trails, both on the western and eastern side. That has also been put on hold. So if you've been, and I see we have some Barrytown residents here, typically those are the only ones who utilize those trails, but the Father's Trail, for example, is still closed. We were told the other day, until such time as they decide to open it to the public. So that's really the announcements I have. Anyone else have any announcements? Okay. Very good. All right, public comment, we can do up to 15 minutes. Would anybody like to make any public comments tonight? Okay. Hearing none, why don't we jump right in? We have our engineer with us, Ryan Morrison from Ty and Bond. Our first item is a resolution to award a contract on St. Margaret's accessibility and parking improvements. Just for the general public, a reminder that every time we have a public works project, we go out and do sealed public bids. It's the only way that we can get you the best price for your money. While we oftentimes would like to use local, we are prohibited in New York State on having preferential treatment towards local contractors. That said, in this case, the award seems to be going to somebody who we're quite familiar with. Ryan, do you want to walk us through the project just for the folks at home who maybe haven't been following it for the last few months?
Sure. So the St. Margaret's Accessibility Project includes a couple of different portions. There's a ADA walkway to the back of the building. Currently, there's a step up to the back of the building, and so the town received a grant to improve ADA accessibility to the building. So we'll be providing a bluestone handicap walkway that leads up to that back door and a more official landing space such that we can meet ADA requirements with door swings, and kind of putting some columns around the existing columns there's an overhang over that back door. So there'll be some stone finished columns that'll embed those steel columns that hold up that overhang. In addition, there's a paved parking lot that will be put in at St. Margaret's. They'll have about, I think, 20 parking spaces, 2 of which will be ADA accessible. Some really minor signs. It's kind of a low-key site, so we're not going to sign the heck out of that site. There is a historical building, so we want to honor that as much as we can. And there is a paved parking lot which will occur on the one side of the shed where the building is, and then a few spaces will be on the back side of where that shed is, all of which are trying to maintain the existing landscaping, the existing trees, so that we don't have to do too much in removal of trees there. The town is going to have one old pine tree removed that's at the corner. I think they're working on that right now. That's not in this contract, only because it's like the only tree that needs to be removed on site, and the town has an existing relationship there. So they're going to have that tree moved separately. The improvements currently do not include the driveway that leads down to the access road. That's going to get us into a whole nother discussion with New York State DOT and regarding improving of the entrance. And it does not include the back door. When we first put the project out to bid, the door had an electric opener associated with it, but because of the historical nature of that door, we ran into some technical questions during the bidding process that led us to believe we should pull it from the bid and bid that separately. We're currently working with some door opener companies to come up with what's going to end up being a custom door opener situation. We're just trying to find the most cost-effective custom situation that's going to work there. The doors open in, because it's a historical building. On most doors today, they open out for building code reasons, and because of the door width being shorter than most, a floor door opener, which would mount in the ground, doesn't really work because they're not standard width doors. So we've got a couple companies we're going to meet. We've got some folks from the town coming out to help us kind of have that conversation and find the right door opener for that situation, we'll come back to the board separately with that piece. As part of the bidding process, we received 3 bids for the project. The bids were, 2 of them were tightly placed together. 1 bid came in very aggressively, which was great for the town. Bennett & Contracting was the low bid with a total bid amount of $217,700. For those of you that may not know what the alternates were, fell away. The base bid was strictly the work that could be funded by the grant itself. So that's the ADA walkway and the ADA parking spaces. Alternate 1 was just to provide some bluestone in an area where we would otherwise provide concrete. We just wanted to see if it was cost effective to do so, and the pricing came in cost effective to make it kind of all be bluestone and continuous. And alternate 2 was for the asphalt parking lot. And that was only so we could break it out from grant funding so that when we submit to the county, we can easily show them what funds were used for what.
Very good. And so we've got your letter of recommendation to award. We've worked with Van Etten before. Many folks know Jerry Pascal, who used to be the foreman
For Fast Track.
For Fast Track.
Yep.
They did the Rec Park Connector project, right? Or Rec Park
They did
West.
through Bud Lane, and they did Rec Park West.
Okay. Any questions, board members, before we take up? We do have a resolution. Number
28.
28. Authorizing contract award for St. Margaret's accessibility improvements. Whereas the town issued a notice of public bids on March 11th. Sealed bids for the project were publicly open last week, April 17th, after due notice. Whereas the bid of Van Etten Contracting LLC in the amount of $92,450 and $5,200 and $120,050 for a total contract price of $217,700 for the project has been determined to be the lowest responsible bid for such work as specified in this specifications. Therefore be it resolved. So we're going to award. Who would like to move that we make that award?
So moved.
Resolution number 28, moved by Councilmember Kane. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Councilmember Solomon. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Moving right along, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Good evening, guys.
So I think I mentioned earlier that we have a comprehensive plan update. We went out to bid to Department of State and received a nearly $100,000 award in order to facilitate public input and to coordinate a steering committee and to come up with recommendations for updating our comprehensive plan. Ultimately, that may lead to code changes, program changes, and so on and so forth. But the first step is signing the contract, getting together the steering committee, and Julia, do you want to remind the folks what's transpired over the last few months and where we are now?
Sure.
Thanks.
Hi, everybody. I'm actually happy to have so many people to talk to about the comprehensive plan. It does not normally garner such a huge audience. So the comprehensive plan really is, it's the long-range document that guides and codifies what Red Hook wants the community to look and feel like for the future. So it's not zoning. The zoning kind of flows from the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan is more of a visionary document that lays out what we hope the community will be over the span of 10 to 20 years. And so as Robert mentioned, we got a grant from the Department of State to help update the plan. We have one right now. It was written in 1993, which is some time ago. It has been updated a couple of times since then. And so this grant allows us to hire planning consultants to help support the town in this process. We went out to bid. We ended up contracting with Hudson Valley Pattern for Progress and they are subcontracted with Pace University Land Use Law Center. So these are two organizations with really deep knowledge of the Hudson Valley, the different trends that are happening here, what other communities in the valley are working on. We're excited to be working with them. We've already begun meeting with those teams. And then it's kind of this big sort of many part process that will include, it'll last probably 18 to 24 months and will include a lot of opportunities for the public to provide input. So one of the ways that we are guiding that process, as Robert mentioned, is the formation of a steering committee of volunteers who will work closely with the board, closely with the consultants. And then one of the jobs of that committee really is to help spread the word further into the community and help make sure that we are hearing from everyone in town who has something to say about the development of this plan. So what we're doing tonight is forming the steering committee, and that's really, I guess I would say step 1 is the grant, step 2 was hiring of the consultants, step 3 is the formation of the steering committee, and then things get fun, because then is when we begin to go out to the public, begin to find ways to get people's voices into the mix. We will be at Apple Blossom Day. That's sort of our first kind of soft launch in terms of being visible to the public as part of this process. And you'll be hearing a lot more from us over the coming months. And so there is a memo in the packet that you all received. The committee will have 11 members. I've been speaking with people in the community over the past several weeks and have recommendations of folks who would be willing to serve. I think that they are all eager and sort of genuinely interested in serving the project, serving the community. I think they represent a broad range of perspectives, both in terms of their professional experience, their voluntary experience in the community, their lived experience. I'd be glad to answer any questions that any of you have. I can go ahead and just read the list of names.
Sure.
I think that would be appropriate.
Sure, yeah. We have it on the screen as well.
Yep. So, Agatha Basilar, Lori Husted, Dennis Canuck, Jennifer Magnon, Chuck Mead, Hart Migdal, Sam Phelan, Tricia Reed, Ben Shute, myself, if you are so inclined, and Doug Strawinski. And so these folks, you'll see there are business owners, there are farmers, there are people with planning experience, folks who have kids in the district, folks who have roles within the school district, folks with connections in the arts, recreation, people who have served the town in a voluntary capacity before, people who work with Rotary. So my hope really is that there will be both a wide range of perspectives in the room and also people who have broad networks in the community who can then take the word back outward and help make sure that, that we're really hearing from everyone, that everyone feels welcome in this process.
And then, Julie, just to clarify, this would be the committee, but it is not the only way for people to get involved in the process.
Absolutely not. It is.
So-
It is really only like the tip of the iceberg of the way to get involved. And so there's a page on the town's website about the comprehensive plan update. There is both sort of an email address that you can send an email to and an expression of interest form that you can fill out if you're interested in participating in the process in some way, or even just remaining notified when events are coming up. We've already gotten maybe 24 people who have filled out that form, and if you have filled out that form, rest assured we have gotten it. I've been responding to people with just a brief little email. Now that we have the consultants in place and the committee in place, that will be a more active conversation. So if you have filled out that form, you'll be hearing from me over the next little while. And I would love to have conversations with anyone who has filled the form and figure out in what way you think that you could be involved in this process. What would you like to see? I anticipate that there will be working groups around some topics. The committee and the consultants will interface with existing standing committees of the town. So for example, the planning board, the Conservation Advisory Council, the Ag and Open Space Committee, those folks already have a lot of expertise and thoughts on some of the topics that will come up in the plan, and so we will for sure be working with them. But it may turn out that there are topics where there is not already a committee in place. Maybe seniors or walkability or communications. And so in those cases, we'll be gathering new groups of people. I also think that the process would be well served by having a group of people who are specifically thinking about public outreach and engagement. So how do we foster dialogue in the community? And so all of which to say, if you are interested in serving this process, there's lots to do, and we'll be in touch.
Okay, thank you. Julia. Also, for the folks at home, we did review the organization at a previous meeting. This is really the makeup, 11 total members, 2-year terms, ad hoc committee. It'll dissolve after the update is completed. I think Julia covered a lot of these issues. We're going to have a liaison to both villages and to Bard College. We are required by the state to have a member of the Town of Red Hook Planning Board. It looks like that's Sam Phelan,
Sam, yeah.
who coincidentally was on the last group.
In 1993.
Well, 1990, I think it was formed. It was adopted in 93. So that's good to have some historic information to tap into. You'll need a secretary. We'll go ahead and take a look at that part-time. Some of the activities that they'll be doing, if you have not seen our previous meeting.
Well, I guess I should say that these will be open meetings, so the schedule will be published on the town website, minutes will be published on the website, so, you know, if you're interested in following along from home.
Yeah. We maintain 2 calendars on the town website, so when you go there, try not to get confused. One is for events, and one is for meetings, so just click on whichever one you're interested in and scroll through the months. Okay, what's your pleasure? What would you like to do, board members?
Oh, yes. In the description that you're looking at now, Robert, we originally called this the Town of Red Hook Comprehensive Plan Committee. As I've been talking with the consultants and I'm beginning to articulate with the potential members what their role really would be, it's clear that it is essentially a steering committee, and I think it will be clearer for everyone if we just call it that. So we'd like to make that small modification to the committee description.
Okay, would you like to make a motion that we make that change and we appoint those individuals to a 2-year term?
Sure.
Can she make a motion?
Can I appoint myself? Does somebody else want to move?
I'll move.
Bill wants to move.
Bill second.
Yeah, okay.
I'll second.
Second. Further discussion? I think it's a good mix.
Yeah.
But most importantly, as long as everybody has ample opportunity to participate, chime in, at the end of the day, these are the people who are going to do a lot of the legwork. Did you let them know? Okay.
They're aware.
Okay, good.
Do we want to also appoint a liaison at this time that's not me? I think that would be a good idea. Yeah, from the board. As we do for other committees.
Willing? Okay. Sounds like Christine Kane is willing to be the liaison to the town board.
Doesn't sound too loud, but me.
Yes.
And
We don't have a liaison to Bard proposed yet. I think they're going to give us a name.
yes, I'm hoping
All
that they
right.
will give us a name.
And the
Actually, we
same
should make
thing with
that.
Village of
Yeah,
Tivoli?
we should make that change in the description also.
Okay.
We're adding a liaison to Bard and Tivoli. So the liaison from the Village of Red Hook is Mel Corca. The
Okay.
mayor has let me know that, and Tivoli is in the process of choosing someone that they would like to have represent them.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second on the floor to appoint these members 2-year terms or until expiration. And any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Very good.
Do you also want to appoint a chair at this time, or you?
I think it'd be wonderful to appoint a chair, Julia Solomon.
I'm ready to
Move
serve.
Julia.
Christine Kane, who can barely be audible. Christine has scratchy throat. What do you got? Laryngitis. Laryngitis.
I'll second.
Moved to appoint Julia Solomon as the chair of a comprehensive plan update steering committee.
I will
I
abstain
threw it.
from that vote, but
Yeah, okay.
happy to accept.
Was there a second? Bob?
I second.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Julia abstained from appointing herself. Okay, very good.
Can you explain something? The list of people that you had there, were those the people that you just picked
Yes,
from?
yes, we just
We
appointed
just
those.
appointed them, so those folks are now the steering committee.
Can I ask a question about this too?
Folks,
One quick question.
okay, Anthony.
I want these people really to take the traffic situation and really look at the traffic
Anthony,
situation.
that's the wonderful thing about that button on the town website is we'll get all your thoughts.
Okay.
Just plug them
You
in.
guys should be telling them that now, because that's one of the main factors in this town, is the traffic. All those names look nice over there, but if you overbuild, the roads can't handle it. Look at the traffic patterns, very important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's
We
exactly the
appreciate
kind of feedback we want.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving right along, we are now at committee department reports. Who would like to start? You're being punished. You have a lot of reports tonight.
I have a lot to go through tonight.
Okay, let's do water board meeting, maybe just quick summaries if we could.
So just so that people understand, there's a water board, which is a group of, it's a higher level oversight. They don't actually run the district. They help provide guidance on how to deal with high level issues. They meet quarterly, and we had a meeting February 5th. Those are the people that were present. These are people with various kinds of experience related to that. And those are the issues that were discussed. There's a couple of key things they've been working on as a group. One has to do with federal law requires all public water systems to make sure no lead lines are used, no piping that has lead in it is used to deliver water to homes. And they have to do, there's a requirement for basically a census or a survey for that. So that's one thing they're working on. There's a few the other issue, big issue is the issue of our water tank, which is 35 years old, and whether we should rehab it or replace it. I think the consensus now, after doing a lot of work, is to rehab it, because technologically, the kinds of sealants and paints and other things are way more durable than they used to be, and we think we can squeeze at least another 15 years out of that tank. It's very expensive. Even painting and rehabbing is probably $1.5 million. A replacement's probably $4.5 million. So that is one thing that they're working on, trying to go towards the process of going through bidding and everything else, which are probably for next year. The only other issues, Bard College, we are the backup water system for Bard College. And there was a period in January where they have their own water treatment system. They get their water from the Saltkill. And there was a problem, there was a mechanical issue. And so we had to provide water to them for 3 weeks. And it actually was a good stress test for our system to see whether we could provide it to them and to the rest of our town at the same time. And we learned some good lessons, and the ward board's working towards some longer-term solutions to make sure that we can fulfill our obligations. So that's that. This is the water district. This is the monthly meetings, and this is the people who run the actual the system. And it's the same information that's reported every month. I missed this meeting. We were supposed to meet last week, but because it was a holiday week, it's going to be tomorrow morning. It's usually the third Thursday of the month. And we have 2 wells. It gives an idea of what our well capacity is, how much we're pumping per minute. And we don't pump, they can do a lot more than that, but we only pump what we need, as well as testing of the water, which is required by law for all kinds of things. We have pristine water in our water district. We have a really wonderful aquifer, and we've never had any issues with respect to any kind of contaminants. So I'm very happy to report that every month. And then at the end of the report, there's some issues about, things that we need to buy for supplies. It's really a ministerial kind of report. We need to buy new meters to replace people's meters, things of that nature. So that's the monthly report there. If there's any questions from the board, I'd be happy to answer.
Just a quick update. Speaking of Sauk Hill and watershed protection, I had a site walk today with Winnicke Land Trust and the chair of our Trails Committee. In June, Winnicke will be before you for yet another public-private partnership project along the Sauk Hill. They received a WQIP grant to acquire the property, most of the open land associated with Camp Rising Sun in the southeastern corner of the township. For folks at home, this is a camp that is currently being rented by Ramapo for the summertime. Camp Rising Sun has another facility in an adjoining township. We are going to entertain partnering with them in order to have yet another trail project, walking trail here at the Camp Rising Sun property. It's well over 100 acres. Most of it is open, and it's alongside the Sauk Hill. If you're not familiar with the property, it is sandwiched between the golf course and the Hudson Valley Sheep and Wool farm that recently just sold off of Yance Road. So it sort of comes, it's elongated, and it's got tons of Sauk Hill frontage, so this will be another great protection project. So look for them, probably the second meeting in June, come in and do a presentation. I think they're on track for maybe a late 2025 closing for the property, and then there's going to be some apparently trail improvements that they're talking about there. It'll be ADA accessible, and it's very exciting. Took a few photos, so look for that Camp Rising Sun property, new trails, permanent protection of lands. All right, we don't have what? And water, and drinking water for the Class B stream that Sauk Hill is. Okay, tree preservation. We don't have Jacob with us tonight.
I can do it.
Thank you, Julia. if you
So I was
wouldn't
not
mind.
at the Tree Preservation Commission meeting, but in March, they discussed plans for the Arbor Day celebration, which we already mentioned is coming up this weekend. Supervisor McKeon will read the proclamation. There will also be a luncheon for volunteers, free tree seedlings for anyone to bring home, a raffle, the library will be doing some programs, several other organizations invited, nature walks at the Mill Road School, and spring tree planting, some of which I think has already occurred. I've seen some new trees around town. They are doing a townwide tree inventory project, which is moving forward. They are using a particular software program to help keep track of those trees and are happy with the way that program is performing. And I think the idea is to track the health of the trees, the species of the trees, so that they can plan in a long-term way over time. And they are discussing some possible locations for additional bluebird boxes.
Speaking of trees, we're getting a bunch of phone calls from folks. They're seeing trees along the roadways, the side of the roadways near the utility easement area. The utility is coming in. They've hired subcontractors, are clearing lines. They're putting in new poles. All of this, we understand, may be, or most of it, I should say, related to the archtop fiber installation, and in which case, in some cases, they're looking at the old poles and replacing them. They're also putting in additional poles as well. So if you're wondering what's happening alongside your road and why these trees are being cut up, that may be why. Okay, as they say in Italy, polizia.
All right. I'm the liaison to the police department, and we contract with the Red Hook Village Police for our police services. And they send us a monthly report, and this is for March. They responded to 114 instances in the town, excluding the village and excluding the village of Tivoli, which also contracts with them. They issued 35 uniform traffic tickets. They've been being extra attentive to speeding. And I'm not going to say what roads, but there are some roads in town that people drive way faster than they should. Town speed limit is 35 unless otherwise marked, and so they've been giving a lot of speeding tickets, and I think it's a good thing because some of our roads are very windy and dangerous. They made 2 arrests, and then the category of the calls that they go on are self-explanatory. The only one that I always try to remind everybody on a monthly basis is the school resource officer. It makes it look like there's a lot of incidents at the school. There's not. It's the way they report having a school resource officer showing at the school. It's just the way they count their beans, if you will, as well as the welfare check. And the welfare check is an important component that a lot of people don't understand. Say you can't get in touch with a loved one, you call the police and they may go and do a welfare check to make sure that person's okay. They actually have saved a few people's lives by doing that. So it's an important function that they provide to the town and its residents, and they're very happy to do it. And it's just something a lot of people don't really understand in policing. So that's it for the police department.
Thank you very much, Bill. You mentioned speeding. I'll be back to you in the next couple of meetings. A few months ago, we talked about having more studies conducted by our engineer to get certain roads or the town-wide speed limit lowered. Our engineers recommended we hold off for a couple of months because there seems to be some murmuring going on in Albany that perhaps we might be successful in getting the second leg of our advocacy. The first leg was to get the ability to lower speed limit to 25 miles an hour on a town road. For the folks at home, just a reminder, New York State law had until just recently a minimum of 30 miles an hour on a roadway within the township. We lobbied along with our colleagues both here in this county and other counties to try and get the ability to lower it to 25. We also asked at the same time, let us determine our own roads, town roads, not county or state, what those speed limits should be, because we know our roads better than anyone. And we haven't yet been successful, but we're hearing some rumors that maybe they'll take that up, because there are municipalities, depending upon their population, or some wacky formula. If they're within 15 miles of a city that has X population, then they can make their own determinations. Albany's wrapping up the budget, supposedly, later this week. We'll see what comes out of session, but I think if they don't make a move on that, let's consider doing the engineering study. We have other roads that need to be lowered. As a reminder, we were very successful on several roadways. River Road, 9G, folks said we'd never get the speed limit lowered on 9G. College Park, Forest Park, all were lowered down to 25 those last 2 communities. We conducted engineering studies, and we were able to convince DOT. And if you don't already know, the state is the one that determines speed limits for townships. We don't get to determine. So let's take that up, in the next couple of months so we can get started there. All right. Sorry, that was more than you probably wanted to hear. Trails. This is another reorg thing. Oh, did we want to go ahead and do we have our reorg list with us tonight? Betsy's been coming. Let's tackle this. We're gonna have a special meeting next week. Let's tackle that. A couple of good things to do. All right, and we'll know what the term is for Betsy. Okay, next up. No, you're not going to do it, are you? Without a voice?
I'm saving up.
Okay, do you want to try your microphone, Christine, please? Yeah, okay.
Okay. Is that better? Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so I have the Recreation Committee report. And as we talked about earlier, the fishing contest did happen on April 12th, and we had 52 participants. The largest trout caught was 21 inches, and most caught were from 15 to 19 inches. And special thanks to Gary Kuhn and Joe Kuhn for the amazing job they did cleaning up the banks of the Saltkill to prepare for the contest in the very adverse conditions that we had that day. Another important dates to put on your calendar for our summer recreation program. We're working on the brochure for the programs now, hope to have that out by May 1st, but sign-ups for the program will happen on June 7th and the 14th here at Town Hall. So the spots fill up fast, so don't miss that if you are interested in having your children participate. As we're now in spring, I'm not going to go into all the details, but there is a lot of work happening and getting ready. Supplies are coming in to get the ball fields, which are already being used, ready, the children's playground area ready, and as you can imagine, there's a lot of mowing that happens throughout the whole season. So that has been, the general schedule has been decided, and personnel who will be assigned to various parts of that has also been organized. Our rec department head, John Kuhn, attended a grant workshop with the Office of Children and Family Services in Poughkeepsie in March. They keep changing the requirements to apply for the grant every year for the past number of years. So we request $15,000 to help with our youth programs. So he got updated on this year's work, and we will be submitting that grant again. We want to welcome a new person to our rec park maintenance staff. Peter Heitman has joined the crew, and we want to thank Mark Crittenden, who's done great work but is not coming back this year. With all of the wonderful things that go on at our parks and other recreational properties, so our rec department covers St. Margaret's, as we talked about tonight, Rec Park East and West, the trails at Cookingham Farm West, the Redbridge Cemetery up in Tivoli, and the dog park, and they also keep the grounds here at Town Hall up, so they have a lot of things that they cover. So unfortunately, with all the great things that we do, we are still having acts of vandalism that take place at our rec parks. And so we put up some soundproofing panels around the pickleball courts and the skate park. And so someone has painted them with oil paint graffiti. So that is unfortunate, and we're trying to figure out if we can clean that off or what we're going to do about that. We have had incidents with the wood pallets that supplies come on, and the school district puts them out by the road by the bus garage. We do know that other places in town put them out for people for free, and sometimes unfortunately they end up at the park. We had 6 of them that somebody tried to set them on fire, to have a fire right on the blacktop for the skate park. Luckily, they must be relatively hard to get on fire, so there was some charring, but it didn't really hurt the blacktop, but that could have been a very expensive fix that we would have to deal with. Also, as connection with the fishing contest, getting everything ready, discovered that I think another 6 pallets were in the creek as a dam, damming up the creek, and had to be removed again for that. So we have also had the chain link fence around the pickleball courts. There was fabric on the top, which has been torn off. This is a major repair, major cost, so we're looking at we've got some different safety fence cap to put on that, which hopefully will deal with that. And together with this, we're looking into putting more security cameras at the park, so that we can get better coverage and be able to identify the people who are unfortunately doing this vandalism. as a result of climate change that we've been having, our park is opening earlier each year and staying open later. So last year it didn't close until Thanksgiving. So the times the park is open has extended, but that also means our rec team is stretching to get that all covered. And unfortunately, our trails are not for motorized vehicles, but we have had dirt bikes on the trails that have really dug up the trails. And, seems like a simple thing, but it takes a lot of work and time and money to repair these instances of vandalism, unfortunately. So again, I just want to really thank our rec team for the great work that we do, and want to make sure that everybody understands just how much they are covering in the town and how important their work is to the quality of our life here.
Thank you very much, Christine. Made it through that.
I did, I didn't even cough.
Building department.
All right.
Bill, would you like to do building department for
Yeah,
us?
I'll try to make it quick considering it's this thick. For April, which is, we still have another week to go, we've been as busy as we've ever been since College Park was built or Linden Acres was built. They issued 43 permits up to now, as of today. They conducted 108 inspections, they issued 30 certificates of completion or occupancy. They received 5 complaints, and they received $12,784 in revenue. The report is very detailed. It's self-explanatory for all the kinds of permits that were issued, and all the inspections, whether they failed or not. If you're having trouble sleeping, it's recommended reading.
Interestingly, we didn't have a single family home permit until just recently. A lot of this is renovation. I don't know if that's just a weather thing. I think we had a few months that were finally not good for building, but that'll pick up again. Tradition has.
Oh, they have to finish off their...
Yeah, a bunch more though. Okay, all of this available online. Bill, did you want to talk about dog control a little
I
bit?
do.
Okay, all right, why don't you go ahead?
I've always been the liaison for dog control, and we had a contract with the Dutchess County SPCA for 6-7 years. We and many other towns in Dutchess County, and they provided not just dog control, but animal control. Last year, they decided to discontinue those enforcement type of activities to only focus on sheltering dogs and putting them out for adoption, which left us and other towns, many other towns, in a lurch. We partnered with Rhinebeck, and we now have our own dog control program in place, and I wanted to give the town a little background on it and why it's so important. There's some things, I know that Deanna here is our town clerk, and she gets complaints from people like, why do I have to do this? I take good care of my dog, I keep it vaccinated. But there's some important things, it's not just the law, but there are some public health issues. So as of 2023, every state in the country except Hawaii requires dog owners to have their dogs vaccinated and licensed. The only reason Hawaii isn't is because they declare themselves rabies-free. And any animal that comes in, because they're an island and they're way out there, they have to be quarantined and vaccinated. So they continue to say that they're rabies-free, and they still require vaccinations of animals, but they say they don't have it. New York, the dog and animal control is managed and overseen and regulated by the New York State Ag and Markets Agency. And the Ag and Markets Law, Section 109, requires that all dogs over the age of 4 months be vaccinated and licensed. Some other states it's 6 months or 3 months, but they all require it. They also require, and this is part of the issue why we contracted with the county and everybody else did, is that if you issue dog licenses, you have to have a dog control program. So it was convenient for many of the towns to just have the county's SPCA do it, and now we're on our own. So that's the law. Next slide, please. There you go. So the purpose of the statewide vaccination nationwide requirements is rabies. It's a pretty serious public health concern. And I'm going to talk more about it and why getting your dog vaccinated and licensed is so important. Our code, Chapter 63, we follow the state law, which establishes dog control officers and the costs associated for dogs that get impounded or retrieved. On the website, and I have a couple slides of what it looks like. Well, could you go back up one sec? The cost for having your dog licensed is, I think, $22.
22 for not spaded or neutered, and 15.
Oh, they raised it to 15
Yeah,
for
there's-
dogs that are spayed or neutered. So if you get your dog spayed or neutered, you get a discount. So the next page, when you go to the Red Hook, redhookny.gov, you'll see under departments, and on the upper left it says animal control. You would click on that button and then go to the next page, and then you will get, these are our dog control officers, Leslie Hill and Patricia Wind. Patricia Wind is a local, they both live in Rhinecliff, but she actually is a local business owner here in the village of Red Hook. We have an agreement, they're also the dog control officers for Rhinebeck, but we each employ them. The kennel that we use is at Rhinebeck's highway department, so they have a pretty nice kennel. We pay them basically a stipend for its use. For licensing dogs, there's you can click on that, it gives you the application, it's a one-pager. You have to license your dog, and if you take your dog to a dog park, there's signage about that. But that's all the information if you wanted to know about licensing and what our requirements are. So Red Hook Town and Deanna, our town clerk, are responsible for licensing of all dogs in the town and both villages. And dog control activities are for the town and both villages. And residents in the town and the village are required to vaccinate their dogs and get them licensed in the town. And the reason it's so important is, as of 2020, I think the census had Red Hook at about 11,000 with the two villages combined. And I tried to do some work on figuring an idea, like what's the ratio of dogs to people, because dogs and cats are popular companion animals. And globally, they say from various different sources, though it's about 130 for every 1,000 humans. And in the United States, it's much higher, like 240 per 1,000, very popular here. Next slide, please. But I think the statistics bear out here in Red Hook that we have dogs that are definitely not licensed. Doesn't mean they're not vaccinated, but they're not licensed. And it's important, not just because it's the state law, but if a dog control officer picks up a dog that's running loose, having it licensed, it makes it much easier for us to get that dog safely back to its owner. And the second day they were on the job, they had a complicated one that they had to deal with. And since dogs running at large and loose are the primary thing that are responded to, even before we had this, when the county was doing it, it's important that we have an ability to help track that dog down and determine if it's gotten a vaccination. Because if it hasn't, it goes to the kennel and has to be quarantined. And that's a cost that the dog owner is going to have to bear to get their dog back. You can go to the next slide, please. So when a dog is recovered by the dog control officer, and it's unlicensed, it's going to be housed at the kennel down in Rhinebeck, and the dog owner is going to have to provide documentation that it was vaccinated, and if it's not, it's going to have to get vaccinated, and it's going to have to pay the housing fee, which is it $40 a day now? I think for every 24-hour cycles, I think it's $40. And the dog control officers fortunately live very near there, and they are responsible for the taking care of the dog up to a certain number of days. And then after that, if the dog's not reclaimed, we have to deal with either trying to put it out for adoption or some other result. And this is what's important. Could you go back up? Rabies. In the United States, in the continental United States, these are the 4 kinds of animals that are the most primarily responsible for contacts or exposures to potential rabies. And bats are the #1. And the CDC, all my information comes from the Centers for Disease Control. They say if you ever actually handle a bat, you should seek medical attention. Raccoon, they represent about 33% of exposures. Raccoons, about 30% of exposure, skunks 20, and foxes 7. Next slide, please. See, rabies, and I think people don't realize it's incurable, and it's almost always fatal, like 99.9% of the time it's fatal, if it's not treated prior to any symptoms occurring. And the problem with this is that the symptoms, early symptoms of rabies in a human being are basically like a mild flu. You have a low fever, achy, muscle aches, a headache. Once you have symptoms, it's almost universal that you're going to pass, and apparently it's a really unpleasant way to go. However, if you are exposed, or you think you've been exposed, there is a vaccination that can be provided. It's complicated, it's expensive. You get a series of shots over 14 days, and there's a certain kind of monitoring that has to be done to make sure it's not spread. Exposure, from the time of exposure to actually symptoms, and not just for people, but for dogs and other mammals, is between a few weeks and a couple of months. So it can go unnoticed for a long time. It can be transmitted through fluids, so saliva, mucus, blood, or tissue of an infected animal, not just getting bitten by an animal. And so I've always tried to explain to people, say you have a dog and it's not vaccinated, and maybe it got bit by a bat and you didn't know it, and it's now sick, but it's not showing any symptoms, and you give your dog a treat and it licks your hand, and you have maybe a little cut on your finger or ingrown nail or something, you just introduced it into your body. And as well as, it's not just cracked skin, but it's mucous membrane, so you rub your eyes or your nose. It's a very easily transmittable disease through the fluids. Next slide, please. Here in Red Hook, because we're very rural, and we have large areas like that's ABD, their agriculture, or the residential districts, 3 acres, it's not uncommon, and myself included, I'm in the RD3, and I have a big fenced area in the back, you let your dog out and to enjoy the outside. And if the dog gets bitten you probably by a bat that's infected, you probably never know, because some bats, it's not vampire bats, it's all bats. You might not see it. Also, dogs have occasional scraps with skunks or raccoons or other animals. And by the time it's showing symptoms, it's likely already had close encounters with human beings, the owners, other people. So, like I said before, just giving your dog a treat could expose you to the virus. Next slide, please. All right. So, fortunately, in the United States, there are less than 10 human deaths in the United States from rabies. And that's because of the nationwide robust prevention efforts and education for companion animals. About 60,000 vaccinations to people are given every year to possible exposures to a rabid animal. And the thing about it, I said before, it's over 14 days. They are complicated to administer. The quantities of the vaccine are limited, so they may not have it in Northern Dutchess Hospital. You might have to go to Poughkeepsie or even Westchester. And it's very, very expensive. I read on the CDC website that getting that vaccination can cost anywhere between $2,500 and $7,000. And the shots are fairly unpleasant. So it's important that you stay on top of that. Okay, next one. So, and I just want to reiterate, I think people don't realize what a serious issue it is. And also on CDC's website, they list all the rabies deaths in the United States by state, by year. And for example, in 2011, there were a series of deaths in New York, New Jersey, I think it was Louisiana or Kentucky. And they were all servicemen who fought in Afghanistan, where they have wild dogs. And people think of dogs as friendly, and they are. But those dogs either licked or bit a serviceman, and they didn't think anything of it. They came back, and once it started to show symptoms, it was too late. The other issues for dog control, the first thing should have been the first bullet. Oh, no, you can go up. I should have put the last bullet first on the next slide.
On the next slide.
Yep.
Okay.
Our dog control officers do not deal with any other animals but dogs. That's the law. And so if there's an issue with other animals, and we get them, on our website, There's a phone number for the Department of Environmental Conservation to call, you know, whether it's wildlife or there's like 20,000 feral cats in Dutchess County. So if there are other animals that people are concerned about, the dog control officer is not the one to deal with it. So one issue we get are barking complaints. People leave their dog outside and it barks and it barks and it barks. There's 2 sections in our town code that deal with noise disturbances involving dogs. One is the dog chapter and the other is a noise chapter. And they both say, and I quote it, that if the noise disturbance is more than 15 minutes any time in day or night, and these are the examples: repeated barking, whining, could you go back up? Barking, whining, howling, or other sounds which can be heard beyond the boundary of the owner's property, it's prohibited and it could subject the owner of the animal to a violation or a fine. That is a zoning violation, that is not a dog control. They can do it too, but we're looking at it as a zoning ordinance issue. The other thing is, some people leave dogs out a lot, and people think that the dogs are being mistreated. Under New York State law, dog control officers have no authority to investigate mistreatment of an animal. That can only be done by what are called humane officers or police officers. And in Dutchess County, the Dutchess County Sheriff's Office is the one who we would report that to. So just because someone left their dog out barking doesn't necessarily mean it's being mistreated. But if you do think that someone's mistreating their pet, or any animal for that matter, that's in their control, that's where that would go. And so that's all I have on dog control. I appreciate your time and your attention. And then I think in the future, I will do updates like I used to do in the past of statistics of how many dogs have been dealt with by our dog control officers, like how many dogs that were loose or possibly bit somebody. We really have very few biting incidents here.
I think Deanna's chomping at the bit to remind people to come in and get licensed,
Well,
right?
yes. I was also going to say, out of the approximately 11,000 people in our town, 330 dogs are licensed in Red Hook. So
I think we're short.
it's pretty important. I just feel like it's like your child, and we should just get it licensed so it's safe. It's only $15, $22.
Yeah, a lot of people vaccinate their dogs, they just don't get them licensed.
Right, and the first visit is the only time you have to come in, get the tag, it's cash or check. After that, we're going to eventually move into an online email reminder, but right now we send reminders for rabies, vaccination updates, and yearly for renewals.
And one other thing, I know some people don't get their dogs vaccinated because they feel they gotta go to a veterinarian, which is the law, and it can be expensive for some people. There are many ways to get a veterinarian to vaccinate your dog without having to go to an expensive vet. Petco and some of the other large chains now have a vet come a couple days a week to provide it at a much discounted rate. The county actually, SPCA does dog rabies clinics. We've done them here in Town Hall a couple times. There are ways to do it to help burden the cost. And then once it's done, it's either $15 or $22 to license the dog. Thank you.
Did you want to say something about dogs being in control and on a leash?
We do have, our code does require that your dog has to be on the leash if it's not confined in the home or within a cordoned area so it can't run loose. And so if people are on our rec parks, or other places, the dog does need to be on a leash. And we do actually provide cleanup, bags and
all our public spaces.
Yeah, in all our public spaces. The dog park, of course, they can run loose, but it's got a double door to get in, so dogs, and it's pretty good. Before I had a fence, I used to bring my dog there, and there are various Facebook groups for people who have big dogs and small dogs and things of that nature, but it's a popular place. It's over near the aerodrome. Oh, okay. Well, they have them there.
No, we have a garbage can.
We have a garbage can
A
and
garbage can,
bags.
we empty it now.
And we have water also
So
there.
don't throw the bag in the woods. as
Yeah,
you
please
walk
don't do
in.
that.
So just a quick example, I think Bill has spent a lot of time talking about the importance of it. The very first phone call I got as town supervisor, in fact, I wasn't really town supervisor until a few hours later, was from the dog control officer at the time. 2 dogs, very large dogs bred for, unfortunately, for fighting, were in a temporary kennel space in Upper Red Hook and had gotten out. They were in a field and noticed the pastor's wife jogging up Star Barrack Road and took off. And they not only got her, they knocked her down and proceeded to eat most of one leg. And she was hospitalized and barely survived for a very long time. Had to learn to walk again. And so I guess what we would say is, and you know, during the trial that was associated with these dogs who were ultimately put down, there was lots of testimony about, oh, these dogs were friendly, nice, you could have your kids around them, and so on and so forth. So we may believe our dogs are not a risk, and so we can leave them off leash, but oftentimes that's not the case, and other people have to deal with the consequences of that. So, extreme example, but it does happen, and so we just ask you to please take preventive measures and make sure you comply with the leash law. Okay, that's a lot on dogs.
Yeah.
Sorry. We told you this was
We love our dogs.
good for sleeping aids. Okay, let's move quickly along. We mentioned we're going to have a special meeting Monday, April 28th at 7:30 p.m. We have to appoint at least one person to the Board of Assessment Review. We had somebody just recently move out of Red Hook who was on that board. They need to take their training, so we need to accomplish that. Is there a motion to set the town special meeting, Monday, 7:30 p.m.?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor? Okay. Moving right along, last item on the agenda, circling back, we discussed this at a previous meeting. A historic marker at the Red Church Cemetery. Is Skip with us tonight, Deanna?
No.
No? Okay. Fine. Skip Griffiths from Historic Red Hook has asked us for permission to, on behalf of HRH, to apply for historic marker for these very individuals, patriots, up at the old Red Church Cemetery. And I apologize, this is a black and white of a color, but I think you see what the sign looks like and what it says. It talks about, it gives a number, at least a certain amount are interred here. Red Church Cemetery, if you have not been, recommend that you do. We should have some open houses. Let's maybe coordinate with Historic Red Hook. If you haven't been in the church, it's an incredible resource. There's been dedicated volunteers for over 100 years taking care of that cemetery association. We've now taken it over by default. Once there aren't enough volunteers to continue that, we'll open that up. This marker looks very much like the one that already stands there, and the one that is over at St. Margaret's, and the one that's at the Martin House. So it's a state marker.
Do you anticipate that the patriots will be individually recognized in this case, or will it just be the sign that looks more like this?
It's the sign that looks like
Okay.
this. Unfortunately, they're not signs at each one.
Well, there's too many.
That's,
Yeah.
yeah,
If there
that's
were
what I
like
was.
two, they
yeah.
would put, yeah, that's, you know.
Will there be a list
It'll
somewhere
say
someone,
probably at
if
the
someone
right-
wants to
Right,
learn more?
right
that
here. Yes, we can have a list. That's a good, maybe we'll have a plaque
Yeah, that's
somewhere. That would be
We
nice
have a
nice
glass
to do.
section.
Here are these individuals that they've identified. And this is, again, as part of the Rev 250 effort. Okay, what do we think, folks? Shall we entertain resolution number 30? Where are we, Deanna?
29.
We're at 29. We got-
Wait.
No, setting the special meeting was 29.
It wasn't, I don't have, oh, it was a resolution?
Yeah,
Oh,
that was a
sorry.
resolution.
Okay, yeah,
I think
sorry.
we're on 30, resolution
Yeah.
number 30, dated April 23rd, approving historic marker at Red Church Cemetery. What we're really doing is approving a grant application to get the marker, but issuing permission to do so.
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Folks, that concludes our meeting for tonight. We want to thank you all for attending. We want to wish you happy spring. It's finally here. Please stay healthy, stay happy. Once again, remind you, go on the town website, sign up for notifications. All of the documents will be delivered to you in advance of any meeting, and so you can know exactly what's being discussed and contemplated. With that being said, I wish you good night. I would like to at this time entertain a motion to go into attorney-client session. Is there a second?
Second, reluctantly.
All in favor? Thank you very much. Good night, all. Thank you again.
I want to ask you one question.